Alright. Alright, what's going on YouTube? Steel Orange back at you again today. We're going to be doing something a little bit different today. If you'll notice, I have a face cam. That's because I'm on my PC. I still don't know, I don't understand OBS yet because I don't really use it very often. I usually just stream off the Xbox. So it's a little new for me. If stuff goes wrong, that sucks. But hopefully this will work out. And today what I'm going to be doing is a tier list. This is just my version of a tier list based off of ranked play. This is not necessarily the same for competitive, but just, you know, because I don't play competitive. But based on my experiences in ranked so far, I'm pretty high up in ranked this season, and I've been getting matched with, you know, obviously the ranks in ranked this season are a little bit off kilter a little bit, so being high ranked doesn't really mean much this season like it did before. But it doesn't change the fact that I am getting matched with some high ranked with some players that were high ranked in previous years, so I'm getting to play with them, see what they're doing, and just, you know, what kinds of characters they're picking and who they're having success with. So I'm just gonna take that and just my experiences as well, and just put out what I think is my tier list for ranked as of this point in this season. It's fine if you disagree with me. I'm sure you will disagree with me on plenty of picks, and if you do, go ahead and let me know. Let me know what you think in the comments. And yeah, so before I get into this real quick, I also just want to talk about why I haven't been streaming and putting out videos as much as commonly as I did in the past. And that's just because, you know, I'm in college right now, and sometimes school just gets really busy kind of out of nowhere, and so it's kind of hard for me to predict when that's going to happen, but that's been going on the past couple weeks, so I just had a lot to do and not a lot of time to stream. And I'm not really here to promise that the next few weeks that I'm going to be streaming a whole bunch more again. Like, that may not necessarily be the case, because like I said, I can't really predict when those tough weeks are going to come up. But I'm going to put out videos as much as I can. Some weeks there won't be a lot of content, some weeks there will. But I just want you guys to know that if, you know, I stop putting out content as often, it's not because I like died or fell off the face of the earth. It's just I'm really busy with school and stuff. So without further ado, I'm going to get into the tier list now. I'm just going to go through these characters. I want to talk a little bit about what each of these tiers mean, I guess, to me as I'm putting characters in them, just so you kind of get a sense of what I mean when I put characters in each list. So SS means this character is beyond broken. If you pick this character in a game you can carry by yourself, you will not lose if you pick this character and it is broken. Very few characters ever make it to SS, but that's what that tier means. S plus is your top pick, top ban characters. I hope you guys can't hear my phone vibrating. S plus are your first pick, first ban characters. These are the ones that you're, you know, looking to get every game. If they're open, you pretty much want to grab them if you can. And these are, you know, your best characters, the ones that you want to grab in every game. S, these are sort of your high priority picks. They're not really going to necessarily be first pick, first ban every game. But if they're open, you're likely, you know, they're first pick worthy if that's the character that you want to play, and you can play these on any team comp that you want, and you'll be just fine. A plus, these are the characters that are just a little bit above balance. They're solid. You can play them in pretty much any situation, any team comp they'll fit. They're not necessarily going to carry the game by themselves, but there's not very many situations where you can't pick up one of these characters. A is balanced. That means that this character is, you can play them if you want. You don't have to play them. They're not broken, but if you like the character, you can play it. Doesn't really need to go up or down in terms of nerfs or buffs or anything like that. B plus, these are the characters that can be viable, but usually require a sort of a team comp to be built around them, or a very specific situation for them to be played. B is basically you need to be really, really good with this character. They fit a very, very, very specific situation, and even then they're usually not going to be that viable. And then C and D basically are, these characters just aren't good. You know, like C is this character is not good, and D is, I guess, if you pick this character, you're going to lose. And just don't pick this character. So that's basically what the tiers mean to me as we're going through these characters. So hopefully I can give you a sense of why I'm putting characters in different places. So, without further ado, we're going to start off with Agni. So Agni's going to go in A. Agni lives in A in the tier list pretty often. He's a pretty balanced character. You know, he has good range pokes, solid amounts of damage, solid mobility, nothing that's too crazy. But he's not a bad character by any means. Very balanced. Amus and Cobb. So, Amus and Cobb, I kind of was flirting between B and B+. I decided to put him in B just because, he suffers the same things that he's always suffered from. He has no mobility. So, I mean, hunters rely on getting to the late game, and Amus and Cobb is so different, but any smart jungler is just going to camp an Amus and Cobb in the early game over and over and over and over again because he just can't get away. I mean, he has no escape whatsoever, and in the early game, he's probably not going to turn around and one-shot you before you can kill him. So there's not really a lot that Amus and Cobb can do if he gets camped, and that's what's going to happen. So he's just going to fall really behind. Next is Apwash. Apwash, I'm going to put in B as well. Kind of the same deal. I mean, he just dies. Like, he can't move anywhere. He doesn't really have that crazy good damage. His burst potential is okay, but it's hard to confirm, and his ultimate is really only useful as a zoning ultimate, so you can make him work if you have a team that's designed to protect him, keep him alive, and you're very, very good at using that zoning ultimate as effectively as possible, then you can make him work, but he's just not going to be an ideal pick, one that you're going to be looking to prioritize. Anhur goes up to A+. Anhur's great in this meta. He was great in the last meta, and one of the things that's different about Season 4 from Season 3 is, well, not different, but even more prevalent, is how important it is to have early game pressure, and I'm going to be talking about this over and over and over again with like every other character. I'm going to be referencing the early pressure meta. But the way that this meta is with starting in the lane and then moving to the jungle after you clear the first wave, early level 1 pressure and just early game pressure in general makes the game even more snowbally than it was before, because that early pressure on the first wave can turn into invading camps, which can turn into more pressure, getting to level 5 first, you get to level 2 first, you get to level 5 first, you get early kills, you invade more of the jungle, and you just basically get to, if you have early pressure, you control the entire map, and the game can be effectively over really, really quickly. So early pressure is really important, and Anhur is one of the best, not only best early clear characters, but early fight characters as well. He can fight, he can clear, he has great pressure, and if you get in a skirmish in the jungle, fighting over camps or something, Anhur is usually going to come out on top in those early fights, so great character to pick up. Amaterasu. Amaterasu is going to go to A. She's very, very strong in team fights and in the late game, but she can't really clear early on, and that's even more of an issue, like I said, because of the early pressure that's so prevalent in this meta. It's even more of an issue in this meta than it has been in the past. I mean, she cannot clear at level 1. She doesn't. So that's going to turn into, she's going to lose lane pressure, she's going to lose gold because she's losing minions to the tower, she's going to lose all her camps, she's going to get really, really, really behind, and it's just going to be hard for her to get to that late game stage where she thrives so much. However, if she does get to that late game stage, she is probably the best late game warrior in the game and just completely owns team fights. Like, she just completely dictates the pace of every team fight in the late game once she gets there. So that's why I put her in A and not lower, because if she has a jungler or she's able to get out of that early game, she's going to be really, really strong. So that's why I think she has that balance, because her early game's really weak, but her late game's really strong, so it makes up for it. Next is Anubis. Anubis is going to go to B as well. Same thing as Upwash. I mean, Anubis does a lot of damage, and there's a lot, you can make Anubis work if you're better than the players that you're playing against and they don't understand how to camp Anubis, but a skilled player, a smart player, is just going to camp Anubis in the early game. He doesn't give you the early pressure that you need, and if he's out of position even the slightest bit, he's going to die. If he gets in a fight in the jungle and the fight goes wrong, he has no way of getting out. He's just going to die over and over and over again, and that's going to turn into a snowball lead for the other team, and it's just going to be bad news. Ao Kuang. Ao Kuang is going to go to A. This is surprising. This is the lowest Ao Kuang has been in probably 2 years, maybe. I mean, it's been a while since Ao Kuang. I don't know if Ao Kuang's ever been this low. Ao Kuang has always been the top tier character. But early pressure is the name of the game right now, and Ao Kuang does not give you that. Again, he's balanced because his late game, if you can get there, is still nuts. I mean, his late game is not any worse than it was before, but it's so easy to just abuse the fact that he has no clear, no fight potential, no nothing early game, and you just take all his buffs, all his experience, you're going to have a 3 or 4 level lead on him by the time he gets like level 11, and it doesn't matter what his late game is because you don't get to it. But again, if you can match him, if you can put him with somebody that you can get some early pressure with, so maybe he belongs in B+, because that's kind of what I said this is, but his late game is so strong that I'm gonna let him stay in A rather than B+, because if you can get him in a team comp where he can get out of that early game, then, I mean, everybody knows Ao Kuang will carry the late game by himself. I mean, he doesn't need help once he gets to level 20. So yeah, that's why Ao Kuang's going to be there. Next is Aphrodite. Aphrodite's going to go in B. She doesn't do much damage. Her passive is okay. It helps keep her alive, and she has some good utility, but she's underwhelming compared to some of the other healers in our meta right now. There are other healers that can heal the whole team where she can only heal one person, and she does a lot of things, but they just don't really mesh together well, and I just don't see her having success. I don't see her getting picked up, and I don't see her winning games when she is picked up. So, Aphrodite does a lot of different things that you would think would make her a strong character, but for whatever reason, she's just not having a lot of success. That's why I put her so low. Apollo, first one in S+. So Apollo was buffed going to Season 4, where they buffed his 1 so that it no longer does reduced damage to successive enemies that it hits, meaning that he can clear now, and clear was the only thing that he really lacked. His clear was subpar before, and now his clear is one of the best in the game. So he has that early pressure. He doesn't get bullied in the early game like he did before. And on top of that, I mean, Apollo, once he has his clear, he has everything else. I mean, he has crazy damage. He has a passive attack speed steroid, which is nuts. He has mobility with his dash, ultimate or global mobility with his ultimate. He has more damage on his ultimate. He has self-peel with his mez. You can dash out of danger and knock people up. Apollo does everything, and he hurts. So if Apollo's open, he's getting picked up. Like, you're not going to see Apollo slide through bans and picks very often. Alright, Arachne. Oh, and the other thing is that Apollo is one of the hardest characters to camp. Like, for a jungler, and I play jungle most of the time, I'm going to say that Apollo is my least favorite hunter to see in the hunter world, because you can't kill him. I mean, every time you jump on him, if he has beads, he uses his beads, he mesmerizes you and dashes out, he's fine. Even if he doesn't have beads, unless you can one-shot him before your crowd control wears off, he's still just going to use his 2 and dash out. And even if he's all the way up the lane, he can just use his ultimate and get out of the danger most of the time anyway. So it's so hard to kill Apollo. Can't camp him, he can clear really safely, he can split push if he wants, and then ult right into the middle of a team fight, so he's always a threat even if he's split pushing. It's just, he's hard to deal with. Alright, next is Arachne. Arachne is going to go in A. This might be surprising because I'm talking about how early pressure is so important, and Arachne is one of the best early game fighters in the game. She can 1v1 most people, and in those small 2v2 skirmishes in the beginning as well, she's really good at fighting. The problem is that she doesn't offer anything to clear. Her web doesn't really clear that well, so even though she can win fights, she doesn't get that lane pressure that you're looking for that will translate into jungle pressure. So she doesn't really often get that opportunity to get into those fights. So that's why I think maybe if somebody can find a way to work around that lack of wave clear, or if you put her with somebody that can clear really well, then Arachne can pop off. I mean, if you put Arachne with like an Isis or something, and Isis just clears and then you just go and fight people and kill everyone and take all their jungle buffs, then Arachne's going to snowball really, really hard. She's going to be great. But most of the time she's going to be kind of an average character unless she has some help. Ares. Ares is going to go to B+. Ares doesn't clear wave at all. And his early game isn't really that good. I mean, his chains are okay for lockdown, but he needs help from his team to lock down those kills. Doesn't clear wave at all, so he's just going to get bullied out of lane, and he's also easy to camp because he has no mobility. So, again, he's just one of those characters that a smart jungler is just going to be in the duo lane every 2 minutes, killing Ares over and over and over again. And he's going to rack up 6 deaths by 10 minutes and be so far behind that he's just useless. Now, you can get away with this. This is one of those things where you have to put him in a team comp that helps him out. If you can put him with somebody that clears really, really well, like Ram or Medusa or Izanami or something like that, who are all in meta right now, we'll talk about them later, then you can get away with Ares because they offer him the lane pressure that he needs, and then if he can just avoid getting camped, you have good ward vision and you have good map awareness, you can avoid getting camped in the early game, then Ares can be good. But it takes a lot of teamwork and good team composition design, I guess, to make him work. Next is Artemis. Artemis is also going to be in B+. Kind of the same deal, she doesn't really clear that well. She has a little bit of self-peel, so even though she's not very mobile, she has that speed boost on her too. And the CC immunity and the stun coming out of her ultimate means that she can self-peel a little bit, so she's not as easy to camp as somebody like an AMC. But it still remains that Artemis is a late game character and doesn't offer early lane pressure, and that just gets punished in this meta. Next is Athena. Okay, so Athena's going to S. This might surprise some people because Athena's not really getting played in the SPL, and she's not really getting played in ranked either. So I should be putting her lower, but I just think that people are nuts, and they're just flavor of the monthing really hard because, like, I don't know, Sylvanas is the hip in thing right now, and everyone wants to play Sylvanas and, like, Khepri and stuff, which are good, great characters, and I'm talking about them later, but Athena's so awesome, man. I mean, her lane clear is good, like, pretty good. Like, she doesn't have bad lane clear at all. She gives you early pressure, she can fight early, and Athena's taunt, I mean, a cone-shaped taunt that you basically can't miss and can grab 2, 3, 4 people on the enemy team and group them up and just basically win the team fight with one ability that has like a 15-second cooldown. Like, that's broken. I mean, that is one of the best abilities in the game, and that hasn't changed. So even though she's not the most popular pick right now, you're never going to go wrong with picking Athena, and even picking her first if that's what you want to do. So I think Athena's great, and I think you should pick her. Awilix. I'm going to put Awilix in S. I'm a little bit biased because Awilix is one of my favorite characters. I play her a lot. But Awilix is one of the best early game characters in the game, and she has that great combination of early game clear and fight potential. And she always had that, but the reason that I'm kicking her up even more in this meta is, one, because that early game pressure is so much more important, and two, Hi-Rez decided that it would be a good idea to let ability-based junglers build Bluestone at the beginning of the game for some reason. And Bluestone on Awilix is insane. I mean, her Feather Step already would half health people at like level 1, and now you have those Bluestone ticks, plus you get 15 power out of the gate. If you guys, some of you might be newer players and don't remember this, but for anybody that does remember the time in Season 2, and maybe I think Season 3 even was when they got rid of it, but until like the end of the spring split in Season 3, Power Pot was still a thing at level 1. Like, you can buy a Power Pot for 450 gold at level 1, and like every jungler did it because it was just so strong. It gave you 20 power at the beginning of the game. Well, Bluestone Pendant gives you 15 power out of the beginning of the game, plus it ticks twice for, or stacks twice for another 60 damage. So this is basically stronger than Power Pot, plus it's not a consumable, so it doesn't go away. You keep this item until you sell it at the end, and then you get some of your gold back anyway, so it's way more efficient. And it gives you mana. It's nuts. Like, it just, early game pressure explodes now for these ability-based assassins that can build this item, and Awilix is no different. So she can fight almost anybody at level 1, at level 2. Her 2 is good clear, her 3 is good clear, and you can just out-clear people at level 1, invade their buffs, and then if they try to like contest the invade, you just fight them, and you just flip them, and they die. So Awilix is awesome, man. She snowballs really, really hard. I think people that I'm seeing her played some. I'm surprised that she's not played more because I think she's crazy strong in this meta. Okay, Bacchus. Bacchus is gonna go to A+. Bacchus has got decent early fight potential. He doesn't have the best clear, but he can fight a little bit. So if you can put him with somebody who does clear, and then he can kind of initiate fights really well in the early game, he can put that early pressure on, because if you get in a fight, he can be pretty impactful in that. He's great at getting early picks, and then once you get into the teamfight stage, Bacchus is one of the best teamfight guardians in the game, between his knockup that can hit multiple people, his ult that does insane amounts of damage and screws up the entire teamfight. He has a stun that's an AoE. I mean, he does a lot of great things, so he's going to be A+. Bacchusura, don't play Bacchusura. He doesn't clear, he doesn't do early damage, he doesn't have early lane pressure. I mean, like, yeah, if you get really, really fed as Bacchusura and you get ahead, then you can just win teamfights by yourself, but there's like no way unless the other team just doesn't understand how the character works, or you're just really way better than them, then you're not going to get ahead, so he's just not going to be good. Next is Bastet. Bastet's going to A+. Bastet, she's got good early damage, good early pressure. Her wave clear is alright, and she still has that split push potential. I'm doing this based on Xbox and what I've been seeing, so this is at a point where her cats still remove the backdoor protections on towers. With that being taken off, I think her split push potential is going to decrease a lot. I still think that she'll be able to do it, but not as well. So that might bump her down a little bit. But honestly, I think people generally put Bastet in too narrow of a category. Like, she's just a split push god. You know, if you pick Bastet, you're doing it to split push. I play Bastet all the time, and I don't split push ever. Like, I hate split pushing. I'm not even good at it. Like, I've tried to split push and I can't do it. I'm just not good at split pushing. But I still pick Bastet all the time and have great success with her because she does a ton of damage, man. I mean, when she gets level 5, she can gank anybody on the map. Especially if she ganks anybody with low mobility, they're gonna die. Like, there's no way they're getting out. And then once you get into the late game, if you're building power and pen, I mean, she hurts, man. So don't think that just because Bastet might be losing some of her split push ability that she's not viable, because she can do some damage, man. Bellona, I'm putting Bellona in S. I think this is another case of people kind of flavor of the monthing with some different warriors and forgetting that Bellona is so consistent and so strong. Bellona has great early clear, great early fight potential. Her mid game is great, and she transitions into a great frontliner in the end game. So she's got solid early, mid, and late stages of the game. The other thing is that Bellona's level 2 clear is good, but not special, because a lot of warriors can clear really, really well at level 2. but previously, like, level 1 clear didn't mean anything because everybody was always level 2 by the time they got to the wave. But now now solo laners often have to clear the wave by themselves at level 1, because usually the jungler is starting in mid. Some junglers start in solo, but most of the time they're starting in mid. And so that ability to clear the wave by yourself at level 1 is great, and Bellona's level 1 clear, as far as warriors go, is probably the best in the game. I can't think of a warrior, maybe Osiris, but probably not, that can clear faster than Bellona at level 1, because her bludgeon does an insane amount of damage, but also that cleave attack means that, lots of characters have abilities at level 1 that do a lot of damage, but then they have to auto-attack single characters at a time, and if Bellona can hit 3 at a time, so she's just gonna, you're both gonna do a lot of damage to the minions, but then she's just gonna clear the minions with that cleave much faster at level 1, and then she's just gonna be able to fight you under your minions, she can translate that pressure into taking the elementals, hitting level 2 before you, which can turn into even more pressure, maybe an early kill, some invades, and she can just snowball really hard after that. And even if she doesn't, she's just got solid presence in every stage of the game, so she's still going to be a solid pick even if she doesn't snowball. So I think Bellona is always a viable pick. Don't sleep on Bellona. Cabrakan is going into A+. This is going to be a long video, I think, because I'm talking too much. Cabrakan has great versatility. He can be played in support, although he doesn't see that very often, but solo and jungle he's seeing a lot of play right now. He's got that good early level 1 lane clear in the solo lane, which is great. And jungle, he's got good lockdown, decent amounts of damage, and he's sort of a good frontliner if you want to do that kind of weekend style of play where you're frontlining and setting up kills for your team, rather than trying to like carry the game. Then Cabrakan's a great pick. Yeah. He's not, broken like the nerfs that he saw back when Cabrakan was like the hottest thing on the block. Make it so that even though he's coming back into the meta, he's not as strong as he was, but he's good. He's solid. So I'm gonna put him in A+. All right, who's next? Camazotz. Camazotz is gonna go in A. His early pressure's all right. It's not bad. It's not great. His early fight potential is all right. It's not bad. It's not great. His mid game is decent. His late game he does a lot of damage, but he suffers a little bit from lack of mobility unless you're using his ult, and you don't really want to have to use his ult for mobility if you can avoid it. And if every time you need to escape a fight you have to use your ult, that's not really ideal. Kind of a similar thing that Arachne suffers with. But yeah, and he doesn't have any crowd control either, which kind of sucks. But he does solid damage, so he's all right. He's balanced. Chalk is gonna go into A+. Great early wave pressure. His clear is not the best until level 2, but it's good. It's very good. And he's just solid at getting early lane pressure and transitioning that into a snowball lead. I don't think he's quite as good as Bellona because he does fall off in the late game. Bellona has solid presence in all stages of the game, whereas Chalk really kind of relies more on snowballing early, and if he doesn't do that, he kind of doesn't have a great presence in the late game. But early pressure is very important in this meta, so Chalk's still going to be a solid pick. Chang'e. Chang'e's going to go to A+. Chang'e was getting played a lot at the beginning of Season 4, and still is, and I couldn't figure out why it was, and then I remembered that Shield of Regrowth was changed so that it no longer gives physical power, which means that magical characters can build it, and one of those characters is Chang'e. And so Chang'e, who previously suffered a lot from lack of mobility, now is one of the fastest characters in the game because you can build a Shield of Regrowth, gives you health, movement speed, and just you can run all over the map and nobody can catch you. So yeah, she doesn't have the best early lane pressure, but that ability to build Shield of Regrowth to give you survivability lets her survive the early game better and get to the late game where she really shines, better than some other characters that can't. I know that early pressure is important, and some other characters don't have that early pressure, so they can't get out of that, but Chang'e is more able to sort of deal with the fact that she doesn't have early pressure because it's so hard to kill her with that Shield of Regrowth, and then late game she can just run in circles around you and you can't catch her because she's so fast. And she also does, she has the damage and the healing and CC in the late game. That's all just awesome for team fights. Chyron, A+. I'm not seeing Chyron get played, not sure why, because he has great early lane pressure, great fight potential, it's hard to kill. All around just a solid god, good hunter. Fits in the meta, I think he's A+. Chronos going to A. Similar to Ao Kuang, I think this is the lowest Chronos has been in a long time. But when they took Fatalis off of his 2, or the Fatalis effect off of his 2, that hurt him a lot. His boxing potential and his chase down potential is just not what it used to be. He can build Fatalis now, because Fatalis gives pen. It's not really a bad idea to build Fatalis on Chronos, but any hunter can build Fatalis now, so it just doesn't make him special. That thing in his kit that set him apart from the rest is just not there anymore, because anybody can build Fatalis now. So, he's not terrible. He still does a lot of damage if he can get to the late game, but he doesn't have the early pressure. and he doesn't have that unique part of his kit that really just made him devastating to try and fight against. So just gonna put him in A. It's pretty balanced. Cupid is gonna go to A or A plus. Cupid saw a lot of success in the SPL this week. I was tempted to put him in S, but I think he's still too much of a I don't want to say a niche pick, but like there are certain players that play Cupid and play him really, really well and have a lot of success with him. But then some people just can't play Cupid well. So he's not somebody that like anybody should pick up and do well with. Like if you have a good Cupid, play him by all means. But if you don't, it might be worth learning. But you're not just going to come out and dumpster right away with Cupid if you don't really get the character. But he has good early lane pressure. His ultimate is devastating if you hit enough people in a team fight. He's got good mobility. He's hard to kill. And with that change to his passive, so that he now, or maybe it was his 3 that now gives him passive attack speed. He fits more of that a little bit into the hyper carry hunter role. I mean, he's still not a hyper carry to the extent that some other hunters are, but it used to be that he was basically a 100% ability based hunter, kind of similar to like Uller or something like that. And now he kind of has that hybrid role that lets him transition to like a little bit better than he used to. So yeah, solid character. Erlang Shen's gonna go in A. The removal of the cripple on Erlang Shen's 2 may have seemed like a minor change, but it really kind of it was a bigger effect, I think, than people thought, because that was his main lockdown ability, and that ability to lock people down was what made him so good, especially allowing him to play the support role a lot because he had such good CC and could lock characters down. Now anybody with a dash or leap or any sort of movement ability, you can try to lock them down and they're just going to dash away. I mean, it just doesn't really do what it did. He's not terrible. I mean, he's still got decent damage for a warrior. His lane push is okay. And he's got, his ultimate can be great in team fights. It gives some nice damage mitigation and healing. But there's just he's not special anymore, Fafnir, A+. Fafnir has decent early pressure. He doesn't have the best wave clear, which I think is what holds him back a little bit in this meta, because he can't really contribute too much to wave clear, but his fight potential is great. I mean, I'm just going to be stating things that everybody already knows about Fafnir, but he has crazy CC, crazy team fight. Once he gets out of the first, 7 or 8 levels, he's just going to be a force to be reckoned with, and you don't want to mess around with Fafnir if you don't have to. My phone is buzzing all the time. Okay, Fenrir. Fenrir is going to go to... Where did I put Fenrir? A. Fenrir, and this is kind of surprising too, because Fenrir's early game is awesome, but it's mostly his early game fight potential that's awesome. His early game clear is subpar. He doesn't have an ability that can hit the whole wave. And if you want to, his highest damaging ability at level 1 is his Brutalize, and so if you want to have the best fight potential at level 1, you want to get that Brutalize, then Brutalize doesn't clear at all, really, so then you can't clear really at all. Or, I mean, your mage can, but you can't really contribute to that much other than just auto attacks. And then if you get his jump, then you can clear a little bit faster, you have some mobility, and it still does a decent amount of damage, but it's just not really maximizing that damage potential that Fenrir has. So, Fenrir is one of those ones where if you play it right, you can snowball. But if things don't go exactly how you want them, it's not going to be as easy to snowball with him as some other characters. And so it's going to be more common for him to sometimes not get that early lead that you're looking for, and then Fenrir's late game is not great if he's not ahead. Freya, did I put her in? Oh, I put her in A+. Okay. Freya's going to A+. Freya has no early pressure, which is why this is kind of interesting. But Freya, I mean, if Freya dies less than 5 times in the first 10 minutes, then she's going to carry the late game. I mean, there is no character in the game that I can think of, except for maybe like Mercury, that can match Freya's late game damage. I mean, it is absurd. Everybody knows this about Freya, but I mean, it's just, I'm amazed that Freya doesn't get picked more often, because she just has so much damage. If you pair her with somebody that has early lane pressure, then she's just going to go off because she's going to get out of laning phase. And even if you don't, and she gets camped, if she only gets like moderately camped and moderately feeds at the beginning of the game, she's still going to be really strong in the late game. So she's one of the characters that is solely late game focused that still has a place in this meta, because her late game is just nuts. And yeah, it's Freya's late game is wild, dude. And they put Pen on Fatalis, so now she doesn't lose that much damage from building Fatalis. It's just Freya, dude. Alright, Geb is going to A. Geb is still a good initiator. The peel that he has on his 3 is still... His 3 might be one of the best guardian abilities in the game. That hasn't changed. But his wave clear sucks, dude. I mean, his laning phase is just awful. And, we've talked about over and over again, that just gets punished in this meta. So he's got some good things going for him, but the lane clear is not one of them, so I put him in A. Guan Cena. Guan Yu he took a bit of a hit with some of the nerfs to his passive and how his passive interacts with some of his abilities. It is a healing meta, but he's not the best healer in the game, kind of like he was before. So he's alright. He's got good level 1 lane clear, so that's good. He can do alright. He can hold his own in the early game, but he's not gonna usually snowball unless you're just playing Guan Yu and you're just better than the person that you're against, and you just get early kills because they misplay or something. You're not really going to snowball, and it's just going to be harder for him to reach that late game stage of like sort of carrying the team fights the way he did previously. And even once he gets there, his healing, it's good still, but it's not quite as prevalent as it was before. So yeah, balanced character, I think. Hades, I think I put him in B+. Yeah, okay, so Hades can't clear at level 1. He can kind of clear at level 2. Once he gets to like level 4, he can clear and he has pressure, but at that point it might be too late because he doesn't have any mobility, because if he gets his 1, which is his mobility, then he has to use that to clear anyway, and then he doesn't have any mobility and he didn't clear because his 1 doesn't really do damage. If he gets his 3, then he can still kind of clear, but it takes a while because he has to auto all the minions to get the blight stacked, and then it just takes forever, and it still doesn't clear very well at level 1, and then he has no mobility and he just dies. His buffs get invaded a lot. So you really need to pair him with some early pressure jungler, like a Ratatoskr or a Wheelix or something like that can just carry him out of the early game. And even then, he's meh once he gets to the late game. Habak, same kind of deal. Doesn't clear at level 1 or level 2 or level 4 or level 7. So he doesn't really clear early on, and he's just easy to kill. I mean, Habak's never been at the top of the charts, and the kind of meta that we're in isn't really helping him, so yeah, it's not going to change. Hell, B+. So Hell, going into season 4, the nerfs the changes that Hi-Rez made to Hell, just kind of highlighted that Hi-Rez kind of doesn't understand some of their characters very well, because Hell was like C tier and then they nerfed her. So I don't know what that was about, but then they kind of reverted some of the changes and made her different. So her kit's different now. I think they brought the damage back to her 1, and that's like a burst heal, but then her team heal is a dot, which is just a direct nerf because burst heals are always better than team heals. And she has no mobility and she's easy to kill, and any sort of anti-heal shuts her down even more than, anti-heal shuts down most healers, but Hell more than anybody because she just doesn't go anywhere. The one exception for Hell is if you put her on a team that can complement her, or if you just play a disgusting Hell, like if any of you guys know who Mindy Rocks is, like that guy's Hell is, if everybody played Hell the way he did, then Hell would be an S tier, but most people don't. So you can play Hell if you know what you're doing, but it's tough to make it work. Hercules, S. This is the highest Hercules has been in a while, and I'm excited. I like Hercules. I think Hercules has always been undervalued. I understand that anti-heal can shut down his 3 a lot, but Hercules doesn't really depend on his 3 to be useful. He has great crowd control, insane amounts of damage. The amount of damage that his 1 does and his ultimate early on in the game, you can surprise people and get early kills out of nowhere, man. They're sitting there at 3/4 health in lane thinking they're chilling, clearing the wave, and you just like knock them up, dash them backwards, and bounce the boulder off them twice, like with the wall and stuff, and they're dead, and it's just like, what happened? So great surprise potential in the early laning phase. He has great clear. He can clear at level 1, he can clear at level 2, so he can get lane pressure, he can fight you, and then in the late game, if you buy anti-heal, then he's killable, but it's still hard to kill him because he's a warrior, and warriors are just tanky. And if you don't have enough anti-heal, he's just going to heal forever. Plus the fact that his heal is now a 2-stage burst heal, as opposed to like wait 4 seconds and then heal, like over time. It's much stronger now of a heal because of that burst potential. So that's great. Hu Yi, A+. Got solid. Hu Yi's just kind of a solid character all around. He's got solid early lane pressure, solid early fight potential. His late game, like most hunters, is crazy good. He has really high damage. He's not broken like he was before because they took the pen off of his 2, and I think might have nerfed the damage on it a little bit too, or like the damage increase on it a little bit. But Hu Yi does a lot of things well. Not broken, but kind of just good all around. Definitely not bad to play Hu Yi at all. Hun Batz. Hun Batz doesn't have the best early pressure. He's usually considered one of the weaker early game assassins, but with Bluestone being built on junglers now, that similar to how Power Pot gave Hun Batz sort of a some sort of presence in the early game, Bluestone does the same thing. Because we talked about like kind of how Bluestone kind of has a similar effect to Power Pot, maybe even a little bit stronger. Bluestone lets Hun Batz do some damage in the early game, and allows him to at least survive and kind of hold off that early game punishment long enough for him to hit level 5. And then once Hun Batz hits level 5, he's just a strong character. I mean, he can fight now, and he's just a great character. Once Hun Batz hits level 5, his ultimate is one of the best in the game. I mean, this is not a secret. So Bluestone now lets him get to level 5, even though it's such an early game meta, and then you just go off because you're Hun Batz. Isis is going to A+. Isis has some of the best early game clear in the game. She fits great into the early pressure meta. She doesn't have any mobility, so she still suffers from the same issue that she's always had, which is that she dies. But unlike some of these characters down here that just die a lot, Isis has more self-peel than them. From her silence, her stun, and her wing gust gives her like no movement penalty, or like speeds her up or something. She also has actual early lane pressure. Like none of these gods actually like push the wave early. Isis pushes the wave harder than anybody in the game early. So she's going to be great at putting her with an early game assassin, and you just rampage all around the jungle and take everything you want because you always push their wave under tower and they can't do anything about it. Izanami S+. Izanami, I think, probably could have been strong last season, and people just didn't realize. I think it took people a while to figure out how to play her, that you can just clear with her auto attacks and clear faster than everybody else without even using an ability. And that's still the case, and now that we're in the meta where you push the wave and you get to invade their entire jungle and get way ahead, Izanami is ridiculous. I mean, you don't have to use abilities to clear, and then you can fight anybody that you want. Her late game is great with her 1 is a crazy good steroid, and she has the best early lane pressure in the game as a hunter. So no reason not to play Izanami if she's open. Unless Apollo's also open, in which case whoever's banning in your game is high or something. Okay. Giannis is going into S. Hi-Rez hasn't nerfed Giannis in forever, and I don't know why, because Giannis is just nuts. I mean, I'm not even going to spend too much time on Giannis. You guys know that Giannis is really good, because he does insane amounts of damage and has the most utility out of every mage in the game, and has crowd control and a global ultimate. Like, that can one-shot people. So, yeah, Giannis is nuts. He doesn't have the best early lane pressure, but it's okay, and it doesn't matter because it's Giannis. Jingwei, going into A. They took gas pedal off of her 3, which hurt her a lot. I think they made her ult not go as far to the base, which doesn't hurt her that much, but it was mostly getting rid of the gas pedal and the fact that she doesn't clear as well at level 1 as some characters do. That she's just not that special anymore. I know I can think of some people that might disagree with me on this one, especially thinking that she's higher up. But Jingwei just doesn't scare me anymore. She's balanced, I think. But if you hate my guts for saying that, please let me know in the comments. Kali is going to B+. Kali's early game sucks. Bluestone, we'll see. Bluestone helps her out a little bit. She can clear a little bit. It has some early fight potential. But it's not ideal for her because she's mostly she's an auto attack based character, so it's not very efficient. And then Death's Toll is good on her, but it just doesn't offer that same level of early game destruction that Bluestone does. And it's an early game meta, so Kali's not ideal right now. Khepri S. Khepri has one of the best lane clears of Guardians in the game. He just offers great early pressure, great early fight potential. He can set up kills and just push the wave, invade the jungle, and then in team fights, if you're skilled enough to use that ultimate well and save people in team fights, it can just totally change the tone of a team fight if you're saving one of your hyper carries in the back line or something. So, and plus I think they reverted the change on his base health that makes him not insta-die in lane. So yeah, Khepri's back at the top, man. He's great. Kukulkan. Kukulkan's underrated, I think. His wave clear is great. So he's not gonna kill people early, but he's gonna pressure the wave early on because his lane clear is ridiculous. And that's just gonna give him enough time to get the experience and gold that he needs to get to the point in the game where he just does insane amounts of damage. You have to be careful with him because he is easy to kill. He is easy to kill, but with the change on his 2, where his 2 now gives him the maximum amount of speed right away, and then falls off the longer you use it, is actually a big buff to him because it gives him much more escapability. And it gives that ability more of a presence at level 1 as opposed to having to wait till like level 15 when it's leveled up for it to really have or something like that, or 16 or 17 before it really has a presence. Kukulkan has some mobility early on, so he can live if your positioning is good and you have good map awareness, you have wards up. He has great pressure, and he can definitely get to that late game where he shines better than some other characters. Who's next? Kumbhakarna. Kumbhakarna is going into A+. Not the best early game clear, but pretty solid. He's got great crowd control, great damage. He can lock down, he can fight early, he can clear early. Just a solid all-around character. I'm going to try to speed this up a little bit. This is getting kind of long. Loki. Loki's in B. Loki's always in B because he's not good. There are some people that can split push with Loki and make it work. And yeah, Loki's one of the most frustrating characters in the game, and I hate him just as much as you do, but at a high enough level, he's just not that good. He doesn't get picked up. I mean, obviously, there's going to be people that pick Loki solo, and they split push the whole game, and they proxy waves, and they come back and one-shot your mages, and it's frustrating, and sometimes people win games with Loki, but in general, he's not good. Play him if you want to, but if you don't play Loki, this is not the time to start learning him. Alright, Medusa is going to S. I was hovering between these two because Medusa is one of the 4 hunters right now that is getting picked up, like, picked or banned every game. But I think that Medusa falls a little bit short of Apollo and Izanami just because she doesn't offer quite as much. She doesn't have the same level of early pressure as they do. Her early pressure is awesome, and with the change to her ultimate that now does 75% damage instead of 50% damage when people are looking away from you, means that even if people look away from you, you're still doing a lot of damage. And so it just gives her more of a presence in team fights, more kill potential early on, and she does have really good lane pressure, even though it's not the best in the game. It's very solid, and she can get a lot of pressure early. Also, her 3, I believe, was changed so that it now does 50% healing reduction in all ranks as opposed to 10% scaling to 50%. And a lot of people, it seems like a minor change, but healing reduction is really important, and not having to level up that ability to get that extra 40% healing reduction actually makes an impact, and I think was another reason why Medusa is getting played so much, because that change is really strong. Mercury, A+. Mercury is generally considered a bad early game god that gets better as the game goes on, and obviously his late game is one of the best in the game. But I think people sleep on his early game a little bit, and here's why. 1, Mercury will always outpoke you because his 1 is a great poke. It has very low cooldown and costs very little mana. And it also can help clear a little bit. 2, he has his pluck, his 3, has surprisingly good fight potential early in the game because you can catch people out of position and turn those into early kills and set up kills for your team. It also interrupts certain channeled abilities, which can be really useful early on, and it gives him mobility, so he's hard to kill. And the other thing about Mercury is that now that Bumba's only costs 500 gold, you can go straight into Boots 2 with Mercury, and with Mercury's passive that gives him power based on movement speed, Boots 1 gives you, Boots 2 gives you 10 power, and also 12% movement speed, and 12% movement speed on Mercury gives him an additional 11 power, so Mercury's walking out of the base with 21 power, which is 6 more power than any assassin that built Bluestone at the beginning of the game. So he's already got more power than them, and he got power from an item that he's not going to be selling on later in the game, so it's more efficient. It lets him get right into Boots quicker than everybody else and just get into his build quicker. So he gets to late game faster than most people, and his early game's not as bad as you might think. So definitely a solid pickup. Neith, A+. Neith has good early wave clear, and that's what this meta is about. So I think she's coming back into the meta a little bit. She's not seeing a lot of play competitive because they're just better options like Apollo, Izanami, Medusa, things like that. But if those characters get banned out, or if you like Neith, play her because she has good early pressure. And the reason that she's not higher is because her late game, as always, is not the best, but her early pressure is great, and that global ultimate is always awesome as well. Nemesis is going into A. Her early pressure is not there; she doesn't clear, but once she gets to the mid game, she's solid, and late game she's great. She eliminates targets, tanky or not tanky, and can kind of run team fights by herself. So, solid pick. Not the best. You're not prioritizing her, but if she fits in the situation, go ahead and grab her. Naja, A+. I haven't seen a lot of Naja played, and I'm not sure why. I mean, I guess we haven't gotten to them yet, but there's a lot of assassins that are just really, really strong in this meta that are just higher priority than her, which is why people aren't necessarily getting to Naja. But Naja is definitely viable if you want to play her because her early game is good. She has that ring which can stack Bluestone twice on multiple targets if you bounce it between them. She has nice lockdown with her 3. She can push the wave. She can invade camps and stuff. So she's got that early pressure that you're looking for. She's going to be a solid pickup. Nike, A+. Great early wave clear.
Probably the best early wave clear in the game. The only one that matches Bellona if your opponent can't interrupt that wave clear. If your opponent can interrupt the wave clear, then they're going to, and then you're kind of screwed. But if they can't, then she's great. They nerfed some of her abilities kind of little bit by little bit to, I think, where she fits in a bit of a balanced stage. I like the way that Hi-Rez nerfed Nike. Usually I don't like the way they nerf characters, but I think they did a good job with Nike of doing it in stages, little bit by little bit, until they, without, completely throwing her in the trash can, but they just found a nice balanced spot for her, so I think that she's okay right now. Nox, A+. I think Nox is underrated. Nox is ridiculous, dude. She does so much burst damage. Her early pressure is okay. It's not bad. She has good mobility. She's hard to kill because of that mobility and the fact that she can immune damage if she dashes into a teammate. She has insane burst damage on a combo of abilities that is hard to hit, but if you do hit it, it locks them down. And late game, if you hit that combo on anybody and your teammates are anywhere near you and not like looking at the sky, like don't know what's going on, that target's gonna die. Like if they don't beads that, then they're dead. There's no way that they live if your teammates do any damage. So she has that lockdown. It's great. She sets up kills. She gets kills. And her ultimate is a 40% damage reduction for anybody. Like anybody that you hit in the other team does 40% reduced damage. I don't think a lot of people quite understand how big of a number that is. 40% straight damage reduction. That is nuts. If you use that at the beginning of a team fight and hit 2, 3, 4 people, you already win the team fight. Like there's no way. At the very worst, the other team escapes with their lives because they're not winning that team fight. So Nox is nuts, dude. I don't know why people don't play. Nuwa is going to A. Nuwa has good early lane pressure, but her burst potential and her fight potential doesn't really show up till late game, and she's pretty easy to kill. I mean, her ultimate can buy her some time and give her some CC immunity, but then she comes down in relatively the same place anyway, and she just dies a lot. She has a little bit of self-peel with those clay minions and the stun, but I think her general immobility is what stops her from getting farther up the list. Then again, I'm also not much of a Nuwa player myself, so kind of biased. Odin. Where did I put Odin? Odin's an A+. Odin has good early wave clear. He's always been known as like that early pressure guy that does a lot of damage and can clear wave instantly. So he's got that going for him. The reason he's not higher up is because he's kind of an ult bot at the end of the game, which has always been the case. But he has a nice solid niche in this meta because of that early pressure that he gives. Osiris has always been sort of an underwhelming character, but the meta that we're in right now is perfect for Osiris, so that's why he kind of jumps up to A+, whereas previously he was kind of A or B+, or maybe even B, depending on the meta. But right now, early pressure is the name of the game, and Osiris has it. He can fight you early, he can clear early, so his late game still sucks like it always has, but you can snowball it more easily with Osiris in this meta than any other. So definitely, if you like Osiris, this is the time to be playing him. Poseidon. I don't really know what changed, but Poseidon's just getting played all the time. Like first pick, first ban, sometimes even. If he's not first ban, then he's getting banned on the second round of picks. I don't know what's different. I mean, I've always liked Poseidon. I've been playing him for a while, but I mean, Aegis is still a thing. It still immunes his Kraken. That hasn't changed, but for whatever reason, he's getting picked. Especially, I mean, even at competitive, he's getting picked a lot and having a lot of success. I mean, I think like. Might have been Yaman or somebody else. I don't remember who it was. There was a couple pros that have picked Poseidon and just gotten like 9, 10, 11 kills in a competitive game, and that's nuts. And just doing insane amounts of damage and winning teamfights by themselves. So I don't really know why Poseidon's up here, as opposed to previous times. I'm just doing this based off what I'm seeing other people do and just the fact that he's getting picked all the time and having great success. I don't know what's changed, but something changed, or people just realize that Poseidon exists and they decided to start playing him, and he's always been good. I don't know what it is, but Poseidon's really strong right now. Ra is also going to be an S. Not up there. Not a lot changed for Ra. He's still a great out-of-combat healer. They nerfed his out-of-combat healing a little bit, but he still heals really well out of combat. And now that his heal gives protections, he has that in-combat presence as well. He's got great wave clear early on. His ultimate is always great. If you offer him any sort of setup, then he's just going to do a lot of damage with that ultimate from a long distance away. So yeah, still a solid character. Raijin, A+. Raijin has good early wave clear, good early pressure, good damage. Yeah, I think he's just a solid character. I don't know, nothing. He's not broken, but there's nothing bad about Raijin. Definitely play him if you like him. Rom is still great. Hasn't changed much. Some of the best early clear in the game. Not quite up there with Apollo and Izanami. Actually, his clear is probably better than Apollo's. But Apollo brings so many other things to the table, which is why I think that puts him above Ram, and then Izanami's clear is just leaps and bounds above everybody. But Ram is still great, and he has good early wave pressure, and then late game he just shreds people. So yeah, play Ram. Ratatoskr S+. This god. Alright, so this god was already really strong before Season 4. And now that Season 4, and he was an early game god, and now that Season 4 is a super early game meta that made him even stronger, and now you can build Bluestone, which is like Power Pot, and we already talked about why Bluestone's great for ability-based characters, so you can build Bluestone, which makes him even stronger, and Heartseeker's a thing now, which gives him crazy burst potential, and the global presence, all the same things that, Ratatoskr is the same, but just all these sort of indirect buffs that just make him one of the ideal characters out of the jungle in this meta. He's definitely first pick, first span potential. Robin. A+. Robin's an early game god, which is good, but the problem is that his clear doesn't really come online until like level 3, so he can fight early, he can bully you, but it just takes him a couple levels to get there, which is why I think he's behind like Bellona and Hercules. Some of them. Scylla, A+. Scylla's early game is not great, but I think Scylla's just nuts. I mean, if you can get past the first like 4 or 5 levels, then, I mean, Scylla is so safe. She's maybe the highest damaging, if not, I mean, she's definitely one of the highest damaging. She might be the highest damaging mage in the game, except for like Anubis, who doesn't count because he's always dead. She does so much damage from such a safe distance. She has crowd control on her 3, and she has a teleport basically that gets her out of any situation. So to put that high damage and her ultimate, which can win a team fight by itself, onto a character that can dash halfway down the lane out of the fight, it just doesn't seem right to me. So that more than makes up for her lack of early pressure. Serket's going into S. I might be a little bit biased about Serket, but I thought I was at the beginning of ranked because I was like, or at the beginning of the season because I was playing her every game in ranked, and I still am. Because Serket's my most played guy and she's my favorite character in the game. But she's getting played in competitive too. Like the pros don't disagree with me. She's getting banned first sometimes. She's getting picked up early. I mean, she's been first pick worthy in a couple games. Here's the thing about Serket. Serket had 1 direct buff to her kit and 2 indirect buffs to her kit that just catapulted her up to this spot. The direct buff was that they added 5% damage on both 2 stacks and 3 stacks for her passive. So now if you get 2 poison stacks on someone and auto them, it does 15% of their maximum health as damage instead of 10. And with 3 poisons on them, it now does 25% damage on your next auto attack. That's nuts, dude. I mean, I know that this is physical damage, not true damage, but 25% damage is more than Soul Reaver. Like, I want you guys to realize this. That's nuts. Like, the amount of burst damage that Serket has is insane. So that's 1, right? And even at level 2, she now is doing 50% of their maximum health with just the 2-1 combo and then autoing them, right? That's nuts. 2, she can build Bluestone now. So, like all the other characters, that gives her better wave clear at level 1. She can actually, dashing through the wave actually clears it pretty fast. You need like 1 auto on each of the archers and they die. And so if your mage is doing anything, the wave basically disappears. So you can actually pressure the wave with Serket, even though that used to not be one of her strengths. And also, now that Bluestone is a thing, once you hit level 2, like Serket's level 1 is okay for clear, but it's not good for fighting. She needs that combo, that 2-1 combo to actually set up her damage. So her level 1 in terms of fighting is not good. But once she hits level 2, from level 2 to the end of the game, Serket can 1v1 literally any character in the game. Once you hit level 2, there is not a character in this game that Serket cannot 1v1 unless she gets outplayed. Like, all things equal, Serket will win that 1v1. I mean, Thanatos, Arachne, like all these 1v1 early game characters, Ratatoskr, she will 1v1 all of them. And even like 2v2. So like you can once you're level 2, there's kill potential on anybody in the game, which is crazy. So she can evade those buffs. She can hit level 2 and then go to the duel lane and kill someone right away, and they're like, what just happened? So Serket's just fighting everybody at level 1 and just getting all these kills, and that's why I've been playing her, and I haven't lost a lot of games with Serket because she just surprises people. I mean, you walk into the lane when somebody's full health and you just walk at them and 2-1 them and they die, and they're just like, what happened? I was at full health. Like, I didn't know that you could do that. So you just catch people off guard, and Serket just kills everyone, man. She's nuts. And then her late game is still... Oh, the third thing. That's what I was going to say. The third thing is that Heartseeker is now a thing, and Heartseeker just adds more one-shot potential to Serket, which is like her thing late game, except that now she gets that one-shot potential earlier, because previously when you started one-shotting people was when you got Deathbringer online, but now you can build Heartseeker in that 3rd slot and save Deathbringer to 4th, and Heartseeker gives you just as much, if not more, ability to one-shot people as Deathbringer does, but you can do it for 1,000 less gold, and it gives you movement speed. So you just get online quicker, you have quicker one-shot potential, and that's consistent damage. Like the Heartseeker, you know when it's going to proc. whereas the crit is kind of an RNG sort of thing. So Heartseeker's awesome for Serket, and you just kill everyone, dude. It's kind of ridiculous. Gotti, A+. Again, this is before the nerf to split pushing, so she may go down a tier or two when that comes out. But as of now, she can still split push. Her early wave pressure is great. Her dog is dumb. This is really, Calder is A+. Scotty is the real pet because Calder does all the damage. But, yeah, I mean, she's solid. She's early lane pressure. She can fight early. She has split push late. She can fight late if she gets fed, which she can do because she has early pressure. So, yeah, solid pick. Sobek, A+. Sobek loves to fight early. He's great at fighting early. He has good peel, but he doesn't really clear early, which is why I didn't put him any higher than this. Still a solid character. Sobek does a lot of great things. Don't really need to go into that. But the one thing that puts him below, like, Khepri and Athena and such, is that he doesn't clear at the same level that they do. Soul is going into A. Taking the Fatalis off of Soul, similarly to Chronos, really hurt her, I think. She's still viable. She still does, safe damage. But she doesn't have that same chase down or escape potential that she did before. So, yeah, I think she's more in a balanced state than she was before. Sun Wukong. This is going to surprise some people. I'm putting him in S. Sun Wukong's early game clear, especially with Bluestone, is nuts. And he can kill people early on. He can clear faster than you probably, and take the jungle camps. I'm saying the same thing for like all these characters, but I mean, yeah, he clears early, and we've talked about what that means. So yeah, great early clear, puts him in S. Susano S+. Susano's dumb. It's the same deal with all the other ones. You can build Bluestone on Susano now, so his one at level 1 procs that twice, and he can like kill people at level 1. It's kind of dumb. If you hit those auto cancels and stuff, and your teammate pitches in with a little bit of damage, you're just going to kill people level 1. Even if you don't, you clear the wave faster than everybody, you can invade their camps, and, same deal. Susano's wild. Sylvanas, S+. Same thing. Sylvanas, out of Guardians, has the best lane push in the game, even better than Khepri, because of his AoE ranged auto attacks. So he can clear the wave, he heals, and you just, no matter who you pair with Sylvanas, like, I think the only character maybe in this entire game that you could lose a lane with Sylvanas is, like, Xbalanque. Like, unless you pick Xbalanque, you're going to win lane with Sylvanas. And we've already talked about what that means. Terra A. She doesn't clear. Her healing is she took some nerfs, I think, on her healing maybe, and her model can be destroyed now. She's not terrible, but she just doesn't clear, so she's definitely below some of the other Guardians. Thanatos S. Thanatos, he's the early game character, right? I mean, he kills everybody at level 1. His Death Scythe does insane amounts of damage, and he has great clear because of that cleave on his third auto attack. Means that he can just auto attack the wave and clear it faster than you probably can. Also, Heartseeker, talked about how it's great on Serket. It's also amazing on Thanatos because you hit like level 10 and you buy Heartseeker, and his Death Scythe hits people for like 600 damage, and like that's just stupid. Morgan B. Oh wait, no, never mind. I put him B+. Morgan's kit is underwhelming, I think, to me. Her ultimate is very cool, very interesting. I like the idea, and I'm glad that they brought something new to the table and something that's interesting and fun. But it's not practically like very useful. I mean, there are times when it can be great, but it's so hard to plan. You have to plan ahead. It's so hard to activate properly. It's on like the amount of time that you're alive, that you're in the other character's like form is very short. And the rest of her kit is just meh. She doesn't really clear. She doesn't really find a spot in this meta. I don't know. She's not that great. Thor S. I haven't been seeing Thor get played a lot, and I think it's just because, again, flavor of the month sort of thing. Rat and Susano are the hottest things on the blocks. Your cat's getting played a lot. But Thor's still great, dude. I mean, Bluestone gives him that early game back that he was kind of missing in Season 3. His mid game is still probably one of the best in the games for Assassins. His clear is good now, especially with Bluestone. His hammer will proc that twice. His spin will proc it twice. Thor's great, dude. I mean, Thor is always great, and it doesn't change now. Like, Thor's good in the early game, so yeah, pick him up. Thoth S. Thoth is getting pick banned almost every game. I think his pick ban rate in like the first week of the SPL was like 70%, and the second week was like 79% or something like that. Putting a stun that goes through people on his dash that already dashes halfway down the lane is a huge change, man. I mean, it just makes such a big difference. And it lets him lock people down. So now he still has that artillery long range damage effect that he had before, but now he can go in on people too and just mess you up, man. So Thoth is great. Tier A+. The only reason Tier isn't higher is because his level 1 clear is not good. Once he gets to level 2, he can clear just fine. He can fight or whatever. But it just sometimes he just drops down a little bit because sometimes people can clear fast on him at level 1, get those LEs, get a little bit of a lead, and then maybe get a lucky kill or something and snowball off of tier. But so that possibility exists, but in general you're going to be fine picking up tier. You just got to survive that first wave basically until you hit level 2. Or I guess wave and a half or whatever it is. Uller, did I put him A+? Uller's early game is good. He has good wave pressure. He suffers from the fact that he eats up mana like nobody's business, and so he has to back more often than most people or sacrifice lane pressure. But I mean, he's still good. I think he's a solid pick. He blows people up. He can, once he gets to like level 8 or 9 and he gets into that stage where the hunter lane sort of becomes a solo lane, and he's just 1v1ing with the other hunter, he can out clear and still have abilities up to fight them and get some kills and then one shot people in the late game. So Uller's solid. Vamana. Vamana's a solid character. He clears well, fights well, he's hard to kill. Nothing super special with him, but you know, Vamana's just a good all around character. There's nothing real special to say about him. Vulcan. Good early lane pressure. Not a huge fan of Vulcan myself, but I think he's in a nice, strong spot right now. Xbalanque. I almost put Xbalanque in D. Don't play Xbalanque. Right now, early pressure is so important. Xbalanque is the worst early game pressure. Like, just don't pick Xbalanque. And then once you get to the part where he's by himself and it's like 1v1 with the other hunter, he still doesn't clear, so he dies. His ultimate is one of the best ultimates in the game. But if the only thing going for him is his ultimate and he doesn't do anything else, then he's just not a good pickup. I don't like this character. I've seen a couple people try to pick him up and make it work, but I haven't really seen it be successful. So, you know, I mean, I'm not the hunter guy, but based on how I understand the character, I don't think he's going to be good. And based on what I've seen from him, it's mostly confirmed my thoughts that he just can't hold up right now. Shang Qin, A. It's pretty balanced. He has decent clear, decent crowd control. His ultimate is still hard to confirm, but he has good mobility. Nothing special, but nothing really bad either. Ymir. Good CC. He's not mobile, but his early pressure, his early fight potential is great. So that gives him a little bit of an edge over people like Geb and Jingchen. Zeus. Zeus is nuts, dude. Like, his early game is crazy. His early game is one of the best in the game. His mid game is one of the best in the game. His late game is one of the best in the game. Yeah, Zeus is just never, like, there's no point in the game where Zeus is not strong. And that tied to the fact that his base damage is so high that you can build like 3 tank items on Zeus, not even build Rada Tahuti, and still do top player damage by like 20,000 damage, and never die because you've got like Spirit Robe and Mantle of Discord and Wingblade or something like that, and you're still pumping out damage. It's wild, dude. Like, Zeus is crazy. Zhang Kui, last one, B+. He doesn't move anywhere. He doesn't do enough damage. His ultimate is okay until people realize that Shell exists, and then his ultimate's not that good. Yeah, I don't really think Zhang Kui's that great right now. Alright, that was a long video, but hopefully that was helpful. If you guys totally disagree with me, please let me know. If you guys agree with me, let me know. Just let me know what your thoughts are. If you have any questions, as always, if you like the video, please hit that like button and subscribe. And as always, come check out my Twitch channel at twitch.tv/stealorange. It actually changed. Now that you can switch your Twitch name, I switched it to match my gamer tag. So my Twitch channel is now twitch.tv/stealorange, and the O is a 0 in orange. So yeah, come check it out. That's where I'm streaming this now. And thanks for watching.